Welcome to another episode of wjlive, powered by the Western Journal. I'm Joey Chester, manager of publishing operations. Sometimes I forget my new title. And I'm joined by Josh Manning, who is deputy managing editor for Assignment, or my former boss. We have a fun show for you today. We're going to talk all about Elon Musk and the latest developments there. We're going to start off with a tweet from Tim Allen. We're going to talk a little bit about the Hunter Biden laptop. We'll get into, is Musk maybe showing some conservative values? And also, Elon Musk could potentially lose his Twitter deal if two scenarios were to happen. So stay tuned for that. So the first thing we want to talk about is Tim Allen. He had a great tweet. Let's put that up now from right after the Musk purchase was disclosed. Russ, do you have that? So he says, the little Twitter bird has a new owner. Wonder how long it'll take for the new shadow ban council to prevent me from saying stuff like Hunter Biden laptop or even more provocative, Tesla in-car fart app. Love it when driving with my mom.
Oh, Tim Allen.
Yes, always funny. So he straight up mentions the Hunter Biden laptop, which, as we know, as you all know, was a huge deal right before the 2020 election, and Twitter censored it, stopped the story from being shared, and now we're allowed to freely say it.
Yeah, they carpet bombed it.
Yeah.
I mean, the New York Post, the second oldest newspaper in the country, ran the story. The story was profoundly unhelpful, in fact, very hurtful to the Biden administration and the powers that be at Twitter. And in fact, we're going to talk about the response from the people at Twitter who censored it. We're going to talk about their response to Elon here in a minute. But they said it was too dangerous. It's not been substantiated. It's not real journalism. Really, it may be misinformation or disinformation, possibly Russians behind it. I mean, good. That's back when they were saying Russians behind every corner. And so Twitter absolutely killed it at that point. And anybody else who tried to tweet about it got killed as well. So here, Tim Allen is actually calling them out on it.
Yeah, and we've seen now massive developments where even mainstream media has confirmed that the Hunter Biden laptop is in fact real.
Oh, every which way.
I mean, everyone has confirmed it at this point. And we want to talk a little bit about the person who is behind the censoring. She's a lawyer at Twitter, gets paid millions of dollars a year. She's a top executive, and she runs a department she's part of a department that is behind censorship moderation on Twitter. She was instrumental in getting Trump banned from Twitter, and she was also behind the Hunter Biden laptop. So she called a meeting yesterday, and it didn't go well for her. She's not doing well. Apparently,
she's not in a good place.
She's not
in a good place.
So she called a meeting with her staff, and apparently she started crying over the Musk takeover because, as you guys know, one of Musk's big things is removing the censorship, advocating for free speech, having a war of ideas on the platform, and obviously she doesn't like this. This goes against what she believes in. And Musk, go ahead.
No, well, I was going to say, and when we talk about removing censorship, we're not talking about letting them show videos of animals being killed or people being raped or things like that. We're talking about censorship of political ideas, which is, I don't think anybody, and certainly including Elon, nobody has a problem with the idea of keeping animal torture porn off of a platform. We all want that. And the problem is that people like the pro-censorship folks inside Twitter, they lump all of this stuff together. They lump political speech that they don't like. They lump it in with hate speech, and then they lump in hate speech with truly vile, vicious, wretched, horrible content. And that's how they get away with it. We're trying to keep things clean. We're trying to keep things. We want to have a clean, good user experience. But the problem is life is messy and ideas are messy, and you have to hash out ideas.
Yeah, I think Musk tweeted something that was talking about the kind of censorship or moderation that would be under him, and he said anything that falls outside the law. So things like crimes, videos of crimes or cruelty on on Twitter.
And
animal cruelty.
I mean, the current Twitter regime would probably say the same thing. They would love to get conservative thought outlawed. They would absolutely love to, because they classify all sorts of things conservatives would say, or traditional Americans would say, or Bible-believing Christians would say. They classify them as hate speech. They would love to see talk about Romans chapter 1 in the Bible, where the New Testament deals with homosexuality. They would love to see that criminalized.
Oh, yeah.
They would love to see America do what Canada has done with it and do what the UK has done with it, and what we're seeing in the Netherlands as well. They would love for those things to be outlawed. And then in that case, we're just enforcing the law.
It's just the law. Yeah. Yep. So Musk, up until this whole Twitter situation, he has been someone that I think the left has liked. He's helping the environment. He's building electric cars.
He's vaguely associated with greenness. Yes, and that's one of their gods.
He's always been, a kind of eccentric billionaire, weird guy. But
showed up in Iron Man 2.
But so it's pretty wild to see this tweet from Elon Musk that we're going to put up now. He was responding to an article about this top Twitter lawyer crying over his takeover. And again, remember, this lawyer was behind the Hunter Biden laptop censoring. And he said, suspending the Twitter account of a major news organization for publishing a truthful story was obviously incredibly inappropriate. So he's admitting that the story about Hunter Biden's laptop is real. And so it's a pretty massive development. Like we're seeing Musk shift almost. Like he's admitting that this massive story about the 2020 election, about Hunter Biden, is real. And that's just wild to me, but also exciting for the future of Twitter. Now, I will say I don't think he went far enough. It wasn't just incredibly inappropriate. It was direct election interference. But
100%.
But this is still really encouraging.
Well, and remember, it's totally true. And remember the stat that came out, gosh, I feel like it was just a week after the election, had Democrats known about the Hunter Biden allegations and all of the mess there, 1 in 6 of them would have changed their votes.
Yeah.
1 in 6. You're talking about Trump losing by a grand total, I think, of less than 50,000 votes nationwide when you look at the specific counties that he could have flipped.
Right.
So 1 in 6 Democrats would have changed their vote. Absolutely. Twitter totally altered the outcome of the election. There's just no way around that. They completely did.
Absolutely. And it's not surprising when you look at Twitter's employee donations to political candidates. They're
my favorite chart ever.
I think we have the chart somewhere. I know we have it. Give us a second.
Go, Russ.
It's coming.
Run, Russ. Russ is
finding
yelling from
Yes.
the control room. You can't hear him.
But as you won't be surprised to find out that 98.7% of donations are to Democrats. So it's not surprising to see things like Hunter Biden censored.
And when we get the graphic up, I think what's going to be striking is we're looking at all of the biggest tech companies. There it is. Look at it. All of the biggest tech companies out there. This is Silicon Valley's best. The blue represents percentage of votes for Democrats. The red, Republicans. Oracle clocks in as the closest to a moderate organization, and I think I can't see it from here. It looks like Oracle had 20-something, 30-something percent.
I can tell you, I've got
Republicans.
It here. It's 34%.
34%.
Wow, that's
so a full third.
Wow.
So I mean, Joey, this was so funny to me listening to the horror and the caterwauling and the crying at Musk's takeover was remarkable to me, given that graph.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at that, they're not even losing a full bar. It just means they won't have total control of one of those bars. That's it. Yeah. And they will still have overwhelmingly Democrat employees. Elon Musk isn't going out. He's not going to go to the RNC, cast a net, grab 5,000 Republicans, ship them to Silicon Valley, and plug them in. It doesn't work like that. They are just terrified that they are losing one of the organs of the media, one of the social media organs that controls the transfer of information. They are terrified. They are terrified not that they will lose the ability to communicate, because they have a million other platforms, as you see from the chart. They're not worried about that. They are worried that we will gain the ability to communicate with more people, and that terrifies them.
Well, that's why I've been, and Tucker Carlson said this on his show. He said this is the most important political moment since Trump's election in 2016. There hasn't really been a situation where an institution like this has been destroyed since 2016, when Trump totally destroyed the establishment and exposed the swamp of D.C. and the left. So I think that's something really important to think about, and that's why they're melting down. They're losing an institution, but like you said, they still overwhelmingly control the tech industry.
Yeah, which to me is... So that should be really encouraging to us folks, because if they had us over a barrel, if they had America where they want it, they wouldn't worry about this. They wouldn't worry about losing one piece out of, hundreds of Silicon Valley companies that are worth tens of billions of hundreds of billions of dollars. They wouldn't worry about losing one piece. They know that they don't have the majority out there. They know they don't have the majority of Americans. They know that most Americans are level-headed, have common sense. Most Americans love the country. I think most Americans are essentially still small c Christian. I don't think we have the majority, or I don't think the majority are Bible-believing evangelical Christians, but they still at least have an appreciation for Judeo-Christian values. The left knows that. That's why they're panicked that all of a sudden, conservative, decent, flyover country, heartland Americans will not be able to suppress us the way they have been. They will not be in charge of deciding what the narrative is the way they have been. And they're freaking out over this because they know they need every bit of power they can, because they're not the majority. They are a very small, very wealthy, very powerful minority.
Yeah. What's funny to me in all of this is that Twitter could have prevented any of this from happening. They could have easily prevented Elon Musk from buying the company by just not censoring people. Yeah. And Musk actually tweeted, and I thought this was cool. He mentioned that the reason that platforms like Truth Social exist is because Twitter decided to censor people. So, folks complaining about new platforms like Truth and Getter and Gab and Telegram and all these other things that we've seen, like, it's because of Twitter. And so the employees at Twitter should do some self-reflection, which I think the left really struggles with, and understand, like, the reason these things are happening is because of them. But they can't realize that.
Well, I think I agree with you, and I think they live in such a cloistered bubble that they don't realize. I don't think they realize how many of us are out there. I don't think they realize how many decent, God-fearing Americans are out there, and that we're engaged with their stupid product in the first place. Yeah. I'm sure it is horrifying to them. They can't imagine that a bunch of mouth-breathing troglodytes from the middle of the country somehow, that they are getting a say in what happens at their holy microblogging site. And so I think some of the lack of self-reflection, I think it comes from the idea that they don't really see anybody other than people like them. Yeah. So the idea that another exists, that there's a different way to look at things, I don't think it ever occurs to them. So they're not able to step outside the box and think, wait a minute, maybe I should be thinking like this other guy over here that I met earlier today. He had some good points. Well, if you never meet that person, you're never going to have the conversation. All you're going to do is be stuck in a positive feedback loop where leftists and liberals are reinforcing every bad instinct you have. And I think that's what's happened in Silicon Valley. And that's why Elon left. That's why Joe Rogan left, that and California taxes.
Yeah. I do think there's potential, and you might disagree with me, that Elon does mass fire people at Twitter.
Oh, it would be totally potential, and it would be hilarious.
Like, I think this Twitter lawyer who was behind the censorship, she's
that's
gone.
why she's crying. That is why she's crying.
Her job is gone because if you look at Elon's history, back when he was really involved with Tesla, like when he was sleeping on the factory floor to show his workers that he was really in it, he had skin in the game, he was famous for just going around and firing people on the spot who got in his way or disagreed with what Tesla was doing. And Elon has a very clear vision and mindset that the majority of Twitter employees probably don't agree with. And so if he's still the same person, he may very well show up on the first day and just say, do you agree or not? Get out. Pack your things.
I remember a story that a guy told from that time when Elon was like sleeping at the factories trying to figure out how to get the Model 3s to work. The guy was an engineer, and he said he met Elon one day. I don't know if Elon came into his lab or what. Elon was looking at a piece, I think it was for a door that the guy had designed, and Elon was fiddling with it, and he couldn't get it to work. And Elon said, "Hey, bub, who designed this?" And the guy said, "Well, I did, sir." And Elon said, "It doesn't work." And the guy tried to tell him, "Oh, well, you're doing it wrong. Here's how." And according to that guy, that's when Elon fired him on the spot. So who knows? He was probably an angry ex-employee. But if there's any truth to that at all, you get the idea that Elon is not the kind of guy who suffers what he believes to be fools. He doesn't suffer them well. And unfortunately for everyone at Twitter, pretty much everybody's a fool compared to Elon Musk because he's a freaking genius.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you put together a story maybe a couple weeks ago where there was a tweet about firing 12 floors of people, and Elon Musk replied to it exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was Carl Icahn.
Yeah,
it was
that was
Carl
it.
Icahn.
Yes.
You remember Trump used to talk about Icahn all the time when Trump was, he teased running for president for forever, and he said, "I'll tell you, I'm going to get the best. I'm going to get the best people, and they're the best people in the cabinet. Yeah. Carl Icahn's going to be the Secretary of the Treasury," which didn't end up working out. But Icahn famously said he was going to fire 12 floors of people. Somebody tweeted that, ironically, someone tweeted that, and Elon responded to it, with just one word. Exactly.
Yeah. So
no wonder she was crying.
No wonder. Yeah. I mean, like, she is the exact type. And I think I saw something. She gets paid like $17 million or just something nuts. So she's literally paid millions to censor people on Twitter. And I think she's probably crying too, because I think Elon is going to make algorithms public, and we are going to find out what led to people being censored. So
it will be exposed. You know, there was a huge story a couple years ago when I think it was the Daily Caller got hold of Google's blacklist that wasn't really supposed to exist.
Yeah.
They kind of answered around the question when asked in front of Congress. And supposedly it didn't exist. Well, the Daily Caller got a copy of it, and we found that one of our affiliate sites was on there. Western wasn't, and then numerous sites that we know were on there, and there is no telling what's sitting in the code that nobody knows about except a few engineers at Twitter. But I guarantee he will make it open source. Yeah. And man, then the internet is going to go to work tearing that code apart, finding out exactly who was banned, what they got banned for, how long the bans were, and if Twitter lied about any of it to anybody else.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note here, especially for you guys watching to know, because this is good news, they've locked the Twitter source code at this point. So,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it's locked down. So, like, disgruntled employees couldn't go in. One, they can't delete what's in the past to try to cover up things like that, so they can't hide what they've been doing. Again, probably another reason for the crying. And two, they can't make any changes to the platform or algorithm going forward during this transition process. So it's to protect against disgruntled employees doing anything. But I think that's really good news, because it does mean everything's going to be preserved, and we're probably going to find out.
So it's a pipe dream at this point. It's a fantasy of mine. But as people who work in social media here, and we work predominantly in Facebook, it would be a dream come true if something like this would happen with Facebook.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
For those of you who don't do this every day, and congratulations if you don't, it's absolutely horrible.
We love it though.
We are well. We love why we work,
Yeah.
but it is a hard job, and here's why. From day to day, Facebook can change the rules on you. And okay, that's fine. That happens in life. No problem. We adapt. The problem is that Facebook rarely will tell you what the rules are. They will kind of tell you in the neighborhood of where the rules might be, roughly. It's like if you were on an Easter egg hunt, they won't tell you where the Easter eggs are in the park, but they might tell you the state the park is in.
Yeah.
That's about what it's like dealing with them. And at the same time, something that may have been okay to post yesterday might not be okay to post today. And by the way, you might get penalized for it today, even though you posted it, I don't know, 2 months ago. We actually had that happen. Over Christmas, we had multiple articles suddenly get fact-checked from, I think, 6 weeks earlier, all outside the period of time when we could appeal the fact checks, and they lied about it and said we had been notified.
Yeah.
And this is an everyday kind of thing. So if someone would take if Elon, someone else would buy Facebook and just, you hardly have to change anything. Just buy it and release the source code. Release the algorithms. That's all we need. And then the media, even the corrupt establishment media, will not be able to resist stories about particular people that they were destroying. And folks, I mean, we have to ask for subscriptions. We created a subscription service just because Facebook was utterly destroying us, and we could not. We had to keep the lights on. And by the way, if you want to subscribe, you can go to westernjournal.com/join. There's several ways there that you can support us directly. We had to boot that up because previously we had been able to make it just based on advertising revenue that we got from stories going viral on Facebook. But as Facebook realized we helped elect Donald Trump, they began to crush us. And then they went after just publishers in general. And it has become unbelievably hard to do this job. If someone which is why we built a subscription service. And if you feel led to, we would love for you to support us that way. But if someone like Elon would take over and just open up the algorithms, open up the source code, it would make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, totally. So I want to take a moment here and talk about, are we seeing Elon Musk shift politically?
Good question.
Or, is he a libertarian? Is he a classical liberal? Is he starting to become conservative? Because he's clearly not a leftist. I think that's been clear at this moment. So I think I want to start with an older video of Musk talking about the myth of overpopulation and how he disagrees with it, because I think it's really good. So
the longest running liberal myth.
Yeah, let's roll that.
So most people in the world are operating under the false impression that there are too many people. This is not true. Earth could maintain a population many times the current level. And the birth rate has been dropping like crazy. Unfortunately, like, we have these ridiculous population estimates from the UN that need to be updated because they just don't make any sense. Really, you can just look at, say, what was the birth rate last year, how many kids were born, multiply that by the life expectancy, and say, okay, that's how many people will be alive, in the future. And then say, is the trend for birth rate positive or negative? It's negative. So that's the best case, unless something changes with the birth rate. You can look at, take Japan, for example. I think, I'm just going off memory here, but I think the population is roughly 110 million. But last year, if you take the number of children born times the life expectancy, which is 85 years, it's very impressive life expectancy, then Japan would have, I think, around 68 million people, roughly half of the current population. That does not tell the full story, because you would have an upside-down demographic pyramid. You already have an upside-down demographic pyramid where, lot of old people, very few young people, and you know, so how is this, that upside down demographic pyramid is unstable.